Namaste, my beautiful co-creators. My name is Isolde Kellerman, and welcome to Journey of Awe. We're a live web TV where we bring the latest teachings, education to illuminate the collective consciousness. I have a very special guest from Australia, Regina Rowlison. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Isolde. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes.
So lovely for us to have a chat.
I know, finally we made this happen. We had a little technical difficulties, but that's okay. We are here. So I'm so excited because the first time I talked to you, you have a very special product that I think a lot of us can use. You know, in the modern man situation, we are time deficient. And we don't have time to really take care of ourselves. But when we desire change, we want to make it happen really fast. So please tell me about yourself. How did you start, and what inspired you to create this product, what you have?
Okay, it's quite a long journey, but I will try to make it as short as I can. It started way back in 2009, Isolde, when I was faced with diversity, not just dealing with one issue, but I had about 3 or 4 things happening all at the same time. Predominantly, it commenced with the global financial crisis that we all had to endure. And at the same time, my mother was diagnosed with ovarian cancer for the second time. It really became a very stressful period because I was working or had my own business in the luxury industry at the time. And of course, the financial global crisis had a major impact on it. Overnight, I had no money coming in. And when you raise children, that is a very scary situation to be in. In addition, I was very frustrated because financially I wanted to go to my mother, who lived in Germany at the time, to obviously help her through this difficult journey. And I was frustrated because there's nothing I could do. I was not able to pay my bills, let alone fly to Germany from Australia and be next to her and help her. So I did everything that I could from this end, and I wanted to do something other than speaking to her on the phone and encourage her and support her. I threw myself into research because I thought to myself, there has to be something that I can do. And so we talked about my research on the phone regularly, and she ended up in hospital at one stage and came across a book called Iskador and More. And it was actually a book on alternative healing therapies for cancer. Or cancer therapies. And she came across visualization, and this was interesting because just prior to her finding this particular book, I already had embarked on a decision that I needed to change my career very quickly to obviously find an alternative income. And yes, I embarked on the career of coaching, and so I already had an understanding of the subconscious mind, visualization. So when she came across this particular part of the book, I was intrigued, and I said, look, tell me all about it. And cut a long story short, this is actually the same visualization technique that I'm now using in my product. And this visualization technique became a technique very well known and is still referred to by the Australian Cancer Society. And the person that actually used this technique with his patients was a international acclaimed oncologist called Dr. Carl Simonton. And even though he was an oncologist, he was married to a psychotherapist. And they obviously, and they combined, obviously, a very interesting combination. They combined his expertise in oncology with her expertise in psychotherapy. And in the meantime, I also found out that the same technique is used by sports psychologists. So what it actually does, it reduces your fear and your stress, and it increases your confidence. And when it comes to healing, that is absolutely necessary because at a point of diagnosis with any major disease or illness, we become very stressed. and fearful, and sometimes we are very concerned about perhaps not surviving. So our mind immediately puts us into the fight and flight response. And when we're in this response, based on epigenetics by Bruce Lipton, I'm sure you're familiar with Bruce Lipton.
Oh, yes.
He makes clear that we need to be feeling safe in order to be able to heal. So we need to be moving from the fight and flight response back into growth response. And as soon as we're in growth response, the placebo effect that is actually responsible for 30% of all healing that takes place at the moment, whether we are aware of it or not, but it does.
Yes. I would like to stop you here for a second, and the reason why, because if you could expand a little bit on Bruce Lipton's work. You know, you talked about two different responses. We have when we panic, what happens to the body?
Well, what happens the moment we're diagnosed, and we also know today that 95% of all disease is actually caused by what we think, what we believe, and what we feel. In other words, where we are with our emotions. And quite often, of course, we're not aware of emotions because we have the tendency to suppress our emotions, and we don't go through a process which Dr. John DeMartini refers to as equilibrating your emotions. That means we don't allow them to come to surface. So maybe, we're living through life with all these suppressed emotions, Isolde, and, we may be still having feelings of resentment. We may not be able to forgive ourselves and others. We may not love ourselves. And all these kind of beliefs or thoughts or emotions that we have stored away in our subconscious actually can make us very ill on a cellular level. And we know that today. So we know that only... Sorry?
It's so amazing that what you're saying, because really the art of living, we forget that as human beings, we have to honor our humanity, and that means the experience what it's like to be a human, and that means honoring even those feelings that we consider negative, and that is anger, sadness, grief, resentment, jealousy, all those things that we push down because it's not okay to feel them. And then these build up or pretty much tucked away emotions will create the disease that we never allow for them to come up and experience it. I like to, for the viewers to explain that I like to create about these feelings that welcome them, and sometimes, even just personalize them in a sense that if anger would be a person, what it would be, what it would say, how loud it would be, how anxious it would be. And that way you don't look at it as something negative, you just look at it as just an experience, not good or bad, but simply an experience that you allow to feel. And and then when you allow it without guilt, without resentment, to have those emotions, you just experience them, and then let it go. That's what anger is. It's loud. Wow, isn't it amazing? What comes out of me when I'm angry? So it's just allowing these experiences really is just like creating a flow that they come and go, and that's what being humans means, that allow these feelings to come and go. But anyhow, when Bruce Lipton was talking about the panic mode, what happens is that we lose the blood supply from the brain and from our immune system, and it goes toward our hands and feet. And everything gets really constructed in the body as well, not just our mind and thinking, but literally we are in a stress mode. And modern men, unfortunately, can be turned on by a thought in that stress mode. So most of our life, we constantly stressing out. Even if it's not real, we're thinking about our problems, which is many times it's a figment of our imagination. And then we live in a state of stress. So so amazing that you said that the first and most important thing is to create a base where you can become calm and feel safe. And in that mode, your immune system can kick in, and you can allow things just happen. And in this state, if you can continue, what happens in a state when you feel safe?
Well, firstly, I want to say you said that very well, Isolde, that we are living in a world where I think, we shouldn't have to deal with our emotions. We're forgetting that we are human beings, and we need to learn, as you said, to accept emotions and, of course, to let go. So let an emotion go through you. Don't be the emotion, but just feel the emotion and then accept it and try to equilibrate it by making a decision. There must be a hidden order. There's something for this negative experience as well for me to be grateful for, because there's something that I've learned that has obviously enhanced my growth. So there is actually a hidden purpose for everything that we experience. But in addition to that, coming back to what you were saying, stress, absolutely. The lifestyle that we lead, the financial stress, the work stress, bearing in mind that so many people, for instance, are in a job that they don't like, they don't necessarily do for a living what they would love to do, puts a lot of stress on us. And so the tool that I've created, called the Self-Empowerment Cinematography tool or film, which is actually in short called the SEC film, first and utmost, what it focuses on is eliminating stress and fear. Okay, so it does that, and as you said, that is absolutely necessary for us to actually either act intelligently when we're in a stressful situation, because when we are in fear, we find it really difficult to make good decisions. Okay, the blood supply goes to the hindbrain, and we're not thinking very clearly. So we know that when we're in a panic mode, that sort of demonstrates that very clearly. But in terms of healing, as you just said, if we are in that fight-flight response because of ongoing stress, maybe because we're in a toxic relationship and we haven't got the courage to leave, or whatever the circumstances, while we're in fight and flight, or because we're diagnosed with a serious disease, the most important thing to begin with is to actually move out of the stress or out of fear back into growth response, and then we can either think clearly or we can also heal ourselves. So this is very important. So the SEC film, and for anybody who wants to look at more detailed research, I have a lot of research information on my website, which is the AClass Coaching website. I'm sure you mentioned at the end of this show, Isolde. So people can also research a little bit more on some of the information I have there. But it actually is designed to what we call desensitize the fear function of the brain, called the amygdala. And the amygdala is responsible to, in a sense, if it's not desensitized, it can interfere with us to do the things we need to do. We all know that fear is your number one block, okay? So it can make us procrastinate if it doesn't paralyze us in the first place, but it also can sabotage us. And the next thing, which is just, I guess, a mask of fear, are our self-limiting beliefs that we have conscious and on a subconscious level. And so the SEC film addresses all of that. So it actually is a rewrite modality that rewrites those negative self-limiting beliefs you have and substitutes them with positive affirmations that you absorb on a conscious and subconscious level simultaneously, which is the most powerful and effective way of rewriting. And therefore, the SEC film is a very gentle and soothing but extremely powerful rewriting modality. And really, the person that is actually using this tool in form of a DVD or a downloadable video, they don't have to understand all the sciences behind it. They don't have to understand what you and I actually talk about specifically. If they can watch a DVD for 3 minutes, then that's all they need to do. So it's as simple as that, and that's why I call it the 3-minute miracle.
Yes, it's amazing because sometimes, I mean, there are certain personalities that we like to know every single detail how it works. But the general public, I would say, they want a quick fix. And some people don't want to know how and why the brain reacts in a certain way and where is our hidden beliefs and our subconscious. We just want to rewrite some of the stories. And what I like about your product is that it's what it's called self-empowering. You know, there is a new movement and a revolution is happening in an awakening process because everything is really starting from within and finding tools that work faster and quicker and really just awakening part of ourselves that we already know. And this helps everyone, in a sense, to make quicker shifts and shedding old beliefs and all those blockages that we think is there. Because when you look at a problem or a disease, it's like a hologram that we replay over and over and over again. And this creates that stress response. When you really think about a problem, for example, do you have a problem right now in this moment that you think you have, Regina?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part. Could you say that again?
Do you have a problem, for example, right now? I just would like to demonstrate something for the viewers, how the mind replays a problem and creates an association and brings on a stress response. And that's why the modern man totally lives in the head. We are really brain-oriented nation. And what happens is that, you know, I had this amazing exercise and really helps because, for example, someone has financial crisis. But I would like, for example, if someone who has a problem, describe your problem in 10 words. And then when you describe your problem in 10 words, not more than that, then ask the question, are these problems are happening right now, in this moment? And I would say 99% of the problem is usually does not happening right now. Unless someone's stabbing you with a knife and turns the knife in your back, you know. Most of the time, and what I would say is that most of the time it's created in the mind. It's a hologram that we replay, and that's what, and then, you know, this hologram gives a command to the brain, and it's looking for that problem. And because most of the time the problem does not exist in the now, the brain goes into an anxiety mode because it cannot find it. Isn't it amazing? So,
you're absolutely right, Isolde, because I can give you an example. For instance, one of my clients had exactly that problem. And coming from a counselling background, I understand what causes anxiety. And as you just said, is the moment you live in the past, and then you project your negative experiences from the past into the future rather than living in the now. This is exactly what happened. So she suffered from anxiety for many, many years and mild depression. And she tried everything from therapy to, you know, CBT therapy. She tried mind books and all sorts of things, self-help books, which helped her degree, but of course didn't eliminate her anxiety and her depression. So then she got hold of my SEC films, and these are all the things that happened literally within 14 days of watching, even though, you know, I do recommend, and of course it varies from person to person, to watch SEC films for at least 3 to 6 months to get the results you're looking for, and then also keep it up for maintenance. But anyway, just to show you the transformation, she got fully rid of depression in 2 weeks. She got rid of all anxiety in 2 weeks. She, because she used to be anxious, she needed food or sugar in particular to comfort herself. So she wanted to give up her sugar addiction for a long time and couldn't, which she was able to do within the same 2 weeks and lost 5 kilos of weight. She had relationship issues with her through her ex-husband, or because of her ex-husband. I can't remember quite the circumstances. But anyway, every time she would see her family back in Sydney, it was an anxious time. And all of a sudden, she was managing that fantastically after 10 years or something of dreading seeing them every time.
Yeah.
Career-wise, she used to get very anxious taking on complex tasks at work, and all of a sudden, she was breezing through them. She regained joy of life. She started new projects that she would have never done before, and all of that through investing 3 minutes in the day watching the SEC film. And coaches have come up to me and said, "What is your process?" And it basically does exactly what you're saying. It firstly eliminates the fear functions and moves the viewer out of stress into just a state where they become very confident. Actually, they gain unstoppable confidence. And it starts with confidence. That's absolutely the very beginning. And the moment you also overcome your negative self-limiting beliefs, and you start to have this shift, as you're saying, in the hologram or whatever you want to call it, or mindset, when you actually believe in yourself, and it all starts with you, that you can and you are able to overcome these challenges. And you have absolutely everything that you need, and you're worthy, and all of these things. And we're using, of course, positive I am statements, affirmations in the SEC films. They're embedded. And as you know, Isolde, I am is the most powerful statement you can make out there in terms of setting the intent. And then we're using the power of visualization, because again, coming either from a scientific or spiritual perspective, we need to already have seen ourselves having achieved in the now what we would like to achieve, okay, such as being healed, or such as having achieved the goal or the dream that we're after, or the task that we had to achieve, anything at all. We need to see ourselves in the now having already done it. So this visualization tool does all of that in one package. So the sciences that are behind it are really quite complex, and as I said, people don't have to understand them, but I'd just like to briefly mention them. We have neuroplasticity, which means the brain can change itself even though we're an adult. Then we have epigenetics, which we briefly touched on by Bruce Lipton Ph.D. Then we have psychotherapy, as we know, based on Dr. Simonton's technique by his wife, who was a psychotherapist. Then we have affirmations, which we all understand, but NLP and auto-suggestion comes into it from a psychological point of view. So yes, we have all the sciences that back up what we do, but what is so brilliant about it is that we've combined all these sciences into one. It's almost like, we've taken the complexity out of self-help and come up finally with something that you said suits the modern man, something that is quick, that's efficient. You don't need a manual. I don't need to firstly understand what I'm doing. I can just put this thing on in the morning, watch it for 3 minutes, and that's my start of the day, and forget about it, and do the same again the next day. And it just happens. The transformation just takes place.
And it's only 3 minutes a day. I mean, that is
3 minutes a day.
Amazing. So how many sensory targets does it has visual, it has hearing. What it creates in the body when you watch this movie?
Okay, what it does, as you just said, there's a lot of things that are actually happening, and while you're looking at it, you think, gosh, it's so simple. How can it be so effective? But Einstein always talked about when something is actually true, it has to be simple.
Simple, yes.
Absolutely. We've just gone the full circle, I think, with science meeting spirituality, that we in the Western world said for so long, this sounds all too simple. And so we've gone out and we've done all this research, and now we're doing almost have done the full circle with quantum physics and everything else. And we're actually now back to what people have known for thousands of years. And I guess the same kind of concept applies to SEC films. So what happens in the mind, Isolde, the founder of the placebo effect was a guy called Coué, and he already 100 years ago, as I'm saying, this is not new stuff. He already understood 100 years ago that if we want to have placebo work for us, we need to believe on a conscious and subconscious level at the same time. So we need to be fully congruent is another name for it. And actually, I saw the other day a fantastic video by Greg Braden, who showed this cancer cure in 3 minutes in China. I don't know whether you've seen that. And it's exactly on the placebo, except like Bruce Lipton says, these days we are so used to that we not believing in our own power of being able to heal ourselves. We have this association that the next step needs to be a doctor. So we need to go via a doctor to feel better. And he sort of very, very well explains that, saying that the moment we make a doctor's appointment, 9 times out of 10, we already feel better just because we make that appointment.
It's so true.
So it's the placebo already kicking in. So this particular video by Greg Braden, he went to film in a clinic in China where this particular hospital has no medicine, and they have 3 practitioners that use visualization, and they convince the client that they have the ability, which they're proving over and over again, and they're treating something like 180 cases of different diseases and chronic illnesses without medication successfully. And so the patient is fully conscious, doesn't need any anesthetic, and just totally believes is the key word, in the process. And those 3 medical practitioners just use a particular word that gets them in a state, into the heart or in the subconscious, whatever you want to call it. And they just basically create this energy, the feeling of visualizing the patient already healed. Now, this is filmed with a monitor where you can actually see that within the 3 minutes, this patient literally lies there and that tumor disappears. And it's the perfect proof of placebo. And the magic number is again 3. That's why I'm talking about the 3-minute miracle. There's something very, very important about the number 3, and I didn't realize that when I created my SCC film, why it turned out to be 3 minutes. And then I saw Greg Braden's video, and that cure was 3 minutes. When Dina Proctor interviewed me, the best-selling author of Madly Chasing Peace last year, she did meditations, and there were 3 by 3 minutes meditation. And we said, what is it about the 3 minutes? And in the meantime, I did some research, and the number 3 goes back to Pythagoras. It goes back in the Bible. It's been mentioned, I think, in the Bible 500 times or something like that. It goes back to Buddhism. It is a very powerful number. So it is not coincidental that all these things happen in 3 minutes. And this is what I'm saying to you. It's about simplicity. It's not about, it's just amazing what we can achieve in only 3 minutes.
Yes, so what I wanted to ask is that, or add to it, is that to understand our reality, we have to kind of know how the universe works and how is our environment works. And it's really like a mirror effect. So it's reflecting back our beliefs. And also beliefs has a self-reinforcing mechanism in it. So it's really relates back to when we fundamentally change a perception of something, it could be our body or anything else, it will shift in reality. And like Craig Braden was saying, that is just one of the possibilities. So these practitioners did not look at the cancer as something negative, something horrible. It's just one of the possibilities. And that way they can accept it as just one way of being, and being healthy is another way of being. And really just resonate that healthy body, and it will shift literally in seconds. So that is the power that we possess. It's absolutely mind-blowing. The best way to say it. It blows every limit that we ever put in ourselves. And really just becoming of an ownership of this, because when we're born, we don't come with an owner manual of how to use the body, how to use the brain. And it's really just a self-discovery. A life it's about discovering of who we are and becoming of that being, becoming of that potential that really we possess. and it's mesmerizing. And don't you think that with this awakening process, it really, our perception changes with the speed of light. And to me, every day I heard something new, I learned something new, and it changes and kind of sheds an old belief that I thought to be true, and which is not true anymore. And what we thought to be safe is not safe anymore. And what we thought to be, you know, spiritual or religious, it's not. It's everything is shifting. Everything in our reality is shifting, and things becoming quicker. And that's one of the amazing things that, you know, how Braden was also talking about, shifting the dimensions. You know, in the third dimension, we were very rigid and very conditional. And that's usually the past and the future. We've hardly ever been in the now. But as we shift into the fourth and the fifth dimension, things becoming momentarily, I mean, literally, we are more in the now, and even our manifestation is happening faster, and our tools becoming faster and more efficient, like your videos, because we are more in the present, knowing how our environment works, discovering what is our potential, and what our brain or what our body can vibrate. You know, and it's so amazing that you talked about vibration, and that how the heart, for example, has 5,000 times larger magnetic force than the brain.
Yes.
So why do we give so much power to this part of our body when our heart, which is our natural state, is so much larger? And I'm sorry.
So I couldn't agree more with you. But you know, you've got to remember we're in a generation where so much emphasis was put on the IQ, on academic education, and we've been just living in the left brain basically, which is, look, we need it. It's very important for planning and for everyday tasks. And absolutely, you know, if you want to strategize stuff like that, it's brilliant. However, you're right, there is a shift happening, and people starting to become aware that passion is something that is really important. To be authentic with yourself is really important in order to be happy, because we have people struggling everywhere. People are not doing what they love to do. And of course, that means they don't excel, they're not motivated, then they try to make themselves happy, so they perhaps end up with a lifestyle to compensate that may not be healthy for them either. So next thing they're going into, you know, addictions, maybe food addictions, meaning a bad diet, or spending money and ending up with 5 credit cards. And so the stresses keep going and keep going. Stress has become the #1 killer, and it's really a vicious cycle. And how do you get off that roundabout? And so I wanted to come up with an SCC film that does exactly that and addresses all of that, so that we have a tool that is easy to use, that is effective, that is powerful. And even if somebody hasn't really had the opportunity to go through that awakening process, just because they're struggling in life and they want to finally change their destiny and they want to get off that roundabout, this tool will self-empower them, and it actually will change their subconscious programming, meaning their, eliminate those limiting beliefs and fears, which are the #1 blockages, but also it actually will put them on the journey, if you like, of fully transforming, and they won't realize while it's happening because it happens subconsciously. But all of a sudden they find they can get that job. I'll give you an example. My first client, before he used SCC Film, had a 25-year career in IT, was highly paid as a contractor, as a freelancer, until the global financial crisis came, and not long after found it more and more difficult to get IT work in Australia because the work was outsourced mainly to other parts of the world where, of course, labour is cheaper. And eventually, a few years ago, found that he couldn't get any work. He was totally demoralized, got to the stage where he needed to go to social, what do you call it in the States? We call it Centrelink here. It's Social Security, where you get, you get support. eventually they said, well, look, you know, he couldn't find any work. He wasn't able to be employed. He pretty much gave up on life and was very disillusioned and came across SEC films. He started watching SEC films. Within a matter of a few months and some of my coaching, he turned his life around. He got rid of his very low self-esteem that stopped him from, you know, being able to move forward. Couldn't believe in himself. Every business that he had thought of before, even though his ideas were absolutely brilliant, he sabotaged himself or simply couldn't get them going. This time around with the SEC film, he is now within 1 year turning over roughly $500,000 in the last 3 months, got $1 million of capital injection into the business. And that mainly was due to the SEC films eliminating his fears, his self-limiting beliefs, and increasing his confidence in a matter of months. So that person has managed to transform his entire life and financial situation within, you know, as I said, a very short period of time. And so coming back to what you're saying about, you know, yes, we have a shift happening, I agree. And really, I want to be part of that shift to enable and empower people. I'm actually looking at introducing SEC films also to countries such as Uganda and various places in Africa, India, to empower people. I'm also looking at introducing it to the Indigenous people in Australia, to empower people who really need empowerment and have been suppressed for so long. But also individual people, literally everywhere, all over the world, on a platform that anybody can afford, not just the financially privileged, for the very first time. And also, yes, sorry. And
that's
also
what
wanting to...
the second thing what I love about your product, I'm so excited because it's not just that it's very simple, it's very short, but it's very affordable. You know, what you just mentioned. So it's not just for the privilege. It doesn't cost thousands of dollars to self-empower yourself, and how lovely it is that someone, you know, can afford it. But this is for everyone. This is truly a gift to humanity. That's the best way. For the price we give it, it's really everyone can afford it. Everyone.
Yes, Isolde, that was basically my aim. My vision is to help literally everybody around the world. I think we need to stop the struggling. I'd like to see a change in every individual person has full potential, infinite potential, and they don't know how to tap into it. And often we are told back at school, you know, that we may never amount to anything, just like Dr. John DeMartini, I'm sure who you're familiar with. And it is not true. We all have a genius. And if we know how to tap into our genius, if we find our passion and our purpose, and with the help of SEC films, which is so effective, and the cost, we're talking $25 Australian dollars, which is roughly the same in US dollars for the downloadable version. So we're talking about such an inexpensive tool that can now empower anybody. And I'm looking at producing lots of other SEC films that focus on empowering people who, for instance, are abused, such as domestic violence, peer abuse, whether it's psychological, physical, or emotional abuse. I'm looking at helping people who suffer from addictions and getting them off the treadmill. So addictions, you know, everybody chooses their addiction, whether it's coffee or sugar or it's video gaming or it's alcohol, smoking. So we all have our addictions, some more than others, but again, you know, trying to get people off it. And really, my vision is that this tool, and it already is going to be a fantastic tool to assist other coaches and therapists and counselors and psychotherapists and psychologists, so we can speed up the process so that we can actually be more effective, so we can help more people. Let's make this shift happen in Isolde as quick as possible.
Okay.
And that's why I'm so excited to be here to say this tool is now available and it's for everybody. You no longer, you know, need to attend courses that take, you know, months on end. And even if you do, it just means you're going to get your money's worth, because this is definitely going to help you make that shift, that transition.
Yes. And I think that's probably, I would say, I would speak for the whole humanity. On some level, we do not understand our self-worth. And I think everyone, there is a very few people, I don't think I even met one, who does not have self-worth issues. And many times, you know, the ego rises up and then we become arrogant, but it's still, the underlying issue is insecurity. The reason why we want to feel superior, because that's, you know, that is camouflaging our insecurity. So it doesn't matter if you're talking about from a narcissist to someone who is very, you know, who doesn't have a voice at all, that has such a self-esteem. It's all about not understanding our self-worth, and somewhere on the road, we lost connection with source, and that love, that what we are. You know, it's many times that is, I think I would say most of the time, that is the key belief that creates all of our drama in life and chaos. And when you really feel confident in your skin, when you know your self-worth, you don't need nobody's approval. You don't need anybody. Yes, because even if you hear no, you're confident in yourself that, you know, I know what I'm worth. I know what, you know, I know who I am, and nothing will shape me. And, you know, what I will project and what I give to the world, it's going to come from a place of love and not a place of insecurities. So I think if we can help to shift that one belief, I think that's going to be a tremendous improvement in humanity in general.
Yes. For sure, Isolde, in my healing SEC film called The Secret to Recovery from Disease, the viewer absorbs on a subconscious and conscious level affirmations such as, I love myself, or I'm worthy. And the same in the success, the secret to success, I'm worthy. And it's very important, as you said, these affirmations and these beliefs we absolutely have to have in order to function. But you also touched on something else, such as, you know, sometimes we have experiences in our lives that actually takes away our self-worth. And whether it is because somebody was associated with a person that suffered from, let's say, a borderline personality disorder, such as you touched on narcissism. And so the children of that particular person, or the ex-partner or ex-spouse of such a person, quite often loses confidence because of the association and need to do a lot of healing. And so I'm also in the process of producing another SEC film that's going to be coupled with a book that I'm co-authoring at the moment called The 3-Minute Healing, that will help people and be also coming from more of a soul perspective rather than from a psychological, medical perspective, so that the children or the people that have had experiences or traumas that have given them emotional low self-worth and dis-ease, meaning unbalance in not knowing how to love themselves anymore, to help them through that transition and to regain those important beliefs and in order to heal. So yes, definitely, I couldn't agree more with you. That is so important. And the fact, sometimes, you know, we can certainly say to people, go to therapy, you know, go to counselling, and I'm not saying that therapy and counselling doesn't have its place, but for many people it can be too confronting, too painful, or too expensive, because they may have to go for a long, extended period of time. And sometimes people find it too painful, they just don't want to go, they give up. And this again is where the SEC film comes in, which can be used in conjunction with existing treatments or counselling practices or coaching training programs, or people can just use by themselves because it is self-empowering. And so, yes, I'm here to give that gift to the world, Isolde. That's my vision. I want to see a better place. And I wanted it to be on a platform that anybody can use, even when, let's say, we have a natural disaster zone, such as a place where there is a, I don't know, heaven forbid, nothing is going to happen in the future, but we know history will repeat itself. We will have natural disasters, whether it's a tsunami or an earthquake. I would like to have a facility where the SCC films, in order to help people to overcome grief, because it's another SCC film I want to produce, so that people can heal themselves very quickly. That there would be, the shelter centers would have a couple of computers set up where people can just take turns and spend 3 minutes on the computer so they can overcome the loss and grief of loved ones and heal themselves very quickly. They may not necessarily have, the ability to go to grief counselling at that point in time. So this is again where the SCC funds could come into it that I'm about to release.
Great. So how many movies do you have so far?
So far I have 2. The other 3 are in the making. The current ones is The Secret to Recovery from Disease, which deals with emotional or physical disease. And it can be anything to do with trauma or something that has happened in your life, and you need to, as you said, let go of the past, let go of certain feelings that no longer serve you, such as being resentful or not forgiving others or yourself, etc., etc. Then the second one is The Secret to Success, which is designed for people to achieve all goals or their dreams in their life, and it could be in all areas of life. So it could be relationships, it could be health, but of course career, finance, business, you name it. The 3 that I'm about to release, one is The Secret to Overcome Addiction, the other one to overcome peer abuse, and try this again, bullying, I meant to say, and any form of abuse, and so in particular to empower women, Isolde. And the third one is to help people to heal their heart, in order to overcome the loss and grief of loved ones, yes. Whether it's because of a relationship split up or, as I said, somebody passed away, whatever the circumstances are.
Yes, I think these movies should be in schools to really self-empower children, because that's where bullying is coming from. You see, again, it's coming from fear. And for, humans have certain needs, and some of them is to feel significant. And when that need is not met, then sometimes we reach for violence. And children use violence verbally or physically, and unfortunately sometimes it's not outgrown and it leads to adulthood as well. But it all comes from lack of self-worth and fear. If we can shed in general the idea of fear, that when something is, and I'm not talking about that, you should not have fear when you're standing on the side of a 5-story building. This is not the type of fear. We're not talking about danger. We're not trying to erase the sense of danger. It's simply the sense of fear that creates this hologram, going back to the 10 words and going back to the, I didn't finish the story, but when you come to that understanding that it's a fictional story of your mind repeating itself, and that creates that anxiety. It's not happening right now. If you would stop repeating that story, your anxiety would disappear. And when you have tools, and sometimes people say, well, I cannot stop my mind. I cannot stop thinking. Well, these are the tools when they really come in handy. A quick fix that helps you to come down, helps you take your mind to a different modality. That will calm the body, and then it will create the shift or allow the space. Almost like a platform, a zero platform where there's no emotions are hidden.
Well,
And
you're absolutely right again, Isola, because I've proven it even to myself. A few years ago, because of the global financial crisis, I obviously ended up in a situation of facing diversities to the point that even though I ended up developing the prototype to of my SEC films and secured a joint venture project, that particular joint venture was a go-ahead. In the last minute, it was cancelled, canned in other words, because that other person faced diversity. And I was in the situation where I literally became homeless because I had no money coming in. And I have to say, it stripped all my confidence, okay, as this kind of experience obviously would. Looking back, I'm grateful for the experience. It actually put me on my spiritual journey. And without it, I wouldn't be here today doing what I'm doing. And I'm grateful for all the growth and all the learning. And so it had to happen. It happened for a reason, like everything does.
I call it essential stepping stones.
Absolutely.
That's what creates the human being on the end. That's what creates your value. The experience of feeling defeated. The experience of humility, the experience of I don't know what's next,
I had all of that.
Did you have this in your 40s? I mean, mine came in actually around 40s. That everything what I thought that was valuable and what I worked for, it just turned out to be no, it's not. It's not worth it, and it's kind of like a shift happened. And, I remember turning 40, and I was literally very mad. And I'm like, by age 40, I thought that I'm going to have a different view on life. I'm going to experience more. I'm going to be smarter, wiser, richer, more successful. And everything just crumbled what I worked for. And it made me mad for a couple of years because I didn't know what to do next. But again, it put me on the spiritual path. You see, that physical, what we are so attached to, that's something that constantly changes. We have to take the shift off that we can create so much more if we're not attached to stuff. Stuff is great, but there is an infinite part of us that is greater. And then when you discover that stuff is not as important, because you can understand that you can create that stuff and even bigger stuff. It's more important. You can create bigger because when you discover that infinite part of you that can manifest in the now and learning. And when you get that, and also an amazing thing, when you have these diversities, when you have these challenges, many times we don't really welcome them because I'm like, oh,
they're horrible at the time.
horrible. But here, what if we look at change as a signal from the universe that says, you're ready for the next step? How about that's an upgrade? When things happen, when things change, when you experience huge diversity, the universe says, you're ready for the bigger, better, and the next step. How about that? That's, that way, when things change, you don't panic. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And it is. It's part of the human experience because you feel insecure. But if haven't we learned that nothing stays secure in the human experience? Nothing. The only thing that is constant is change. Nothing stays the same. Not our body, our lifestyle, our views, our perception. I mean, everything. When you even look in the mirror 5 minutes ago, 5 minutes later, a different person looking back at you. I mean, that's how fast things change.
Too true. Too true. But, as you said, while you go through it, while we have that pain, it's so hard to see that hidden order. It is so hard to accept, that we had to learn this. There was something that we still had to learn. At times we are not falling only because of manifesting subconsciously, but sometimes we are just given that challenge. And I understood I had to learn to face every single fear that was out there in order to now say to people, you can overcome it because I've done it. And so then I was able to also test my own SCC film, and that's how I actually created my second one, The Secret to Success, because as I said to you, I had lost my confidence. You know, I had lost absolutely everything that I worked for. I was doing fantastic one moment, and next minute it was just, I was shattered. And so I gradually rebuilt, watching my SEC film, and I thought to myself, this is working. This is actually working. It's really working. I didn't just think it's working, I proved it. And so maybe that's what the universe wanted me to do. It wanted me to actually convince myself, you know, that this gift is as powerful as it is, and I'm manifesting, you know, absolutely everything, including this interview today.
Yes, and if we look at change and what we call unfortunate events, when you have the idea, or we would have the belief that everything that seems to be challenging leads to a better outcome, then we would not panic as that. And, you know, going back to your products, you know, and that was, you know, that came out from that fall, you know, what you experienced, that it was something negative, challenging, but you gave birth to this idea that was like the catalyst to bring upon something bigger, better, faster, and, you know, and it's really, it just pushed you to create something else. Otherwise, you would stay in the comfort zone. You know, in comfort, we don't grow.
Yes,
you know,
it forced me to do even more research, you know, so every single setback I had served a purpose. There was always a hidden order, as Dr. DiMartini puts it. And I do that every time I face some sort of challenge. I put my own SEC film on, so it immediately puts me in the right mindset in case, you know, as a human, I have a moment where I feel very human, because we are in a human experience, obviously. But at the same time, I look for the hidden order, and I think to myself, hang on, let me see, how does this benefit me? Why did I get that challenge? And usually, that moment, I immediately these days recognize what it is it that I have to do. And it takes me to the next level and to the next level. And so I feel so blessed. Yes.
Yes, and that's the beauty. And that's the beauty of the brain. You see, this is how it works. When you give the right command, how can this serve me? Then the brain starts to look for that. You give a perception, you give an angle to the brain, and it starts to research. If you say, oh my gosh, this is so miserable, it's going to give you all that misery, what you're looking for. When you say, what is the gift in it, it's going to look for the gifts in it. So that's, you know, when you recognize how the brain really functions, then you can give smart commands, and that way it will open new doors to your perception. You know, going back to your product, you know, we talked about visualization. Okay, I could not say that word right now. Can you say it for me, please? Visualizing. And how are your movies are different? Because you talked about that sometimes, like, for example, I have problem visualizing certain things. For me, it's more, I need to hear it, I need to see it, and then I can visualize it. But for some people, it comes harder. How do your movies help in that?
Okay. Well, the original visualization technique that was devised by Dr. Simonton and his wife, they actually asked their patients, as you just said, to use visualization. And as you pointed out just then, some people find that really challenging because we not always have the ability to visualize really well. So what I've done, I've actually created this SEC film with a first camera effect of a footage that was donated to me by a Australian and German rock climbing team. And they took on the most challenging places in the world. They literally overcame the biggest fears on planet Earth, I would put. And they climbed this particular rock, or it looks like a rock in the Grand Canyon, even though it's filmed in Spain. And it is a particular journey that if you paid me millions and millions of dollars to physically go on, there's no way in the world, Isolde, I would go on it, okay? But what happens is we know when we watch a movie, the mind can't distinguish between what is real and what isn't. That's why when we watch movies, we get so involved. And so when this footage is being watched by the viewer, and also because the rock climber actually had a camera strapped to his head, so that there was no way for a film crew, obviously, to go on that particular track and film them. It's impossible. And so when you, as a viewer, when you watch that DVD or that video, you actually think it is you who is climbing, because in your mind's eye, because you don't see someone else climbing, you actually have those rocks and those challenges and those holes in the track that you have to overcome in front of you. And you feel you are physically doing it. In your head, in your mind, in your mind's eye, you think it is you who's doing it. So every time you watch it, you actually take on that journey. And so when you finally make it to the end of that, or the top of the cliff, you've made it. That is the visualization. You did it. You overcame all the challenges on the way.
Wow, that's amazing. And that's what they use in the sport techniques too. That they, when they train before the event, the sports event, they visualize that they done it, and that's how they can overcome and create new records, because they literally, if someone can do it in 4 minutes, I can do it in 3 and 58 seconds. So that way, when you do the new records in your mind, actually, and when you create the physical experience, you can match that experience due to replaying that event, what happened in your mind previously.
That's right. That's right. So also in sports psychology, it also reduces the fears of the athlete or the sports person, which then increases simultaneously their confidence, their self-esteem. And as soon as they become more confident, as you say, it then becomes a reality. If they see themselves already having achieved the goals, such as, you know, won the tournament or the gold medal or whatever, if they visualize it, and we seem to accept it with sports people, but we keep on thinking this is only something that sports people can do. And really, I don't know where this is coming from, you know. When I chat to people about visualization, the moment I talk about sport, they go, oh yeah, I get it. You know, tennis players do it, golfers do it, etc., etc. And then the moment I say, well, you can do it for your business, they go, oh, really? And it seems like, why can't
your
you?
love life? Well, maybe you know, so you should make a movie for love life as well. You know, finding the right partner.
Yes, and absolutely.
There are so many obstacles that we run into, that I'm good at this, but I'm not good at that, and you know, it goes back to, again, old patterns, old beliefs that creates that, oh, we have a blockage somewhere. And so I think it can relate to a lot of issues in life that we have hang-ups on. So how different are movies from, for example, mind movies? You know, they're you know, when we see visual effects of money, for example, when we talk about abundance, sometimes, you know, what these mind movie creators did not understand prior, that sometimes these images, although you look at tons of money, it can create the opposite effect in the body. It can create anxiety because it reminds you or triggers beliefs about money. For example, I don't have enough. So me looking at a pile of money, it will not help me to desire more money or make me feel to have that I have money. What it reminds me of, that I don't have money in my bank account. So so your movies are different from these mind movies that you can find, you know, in a wide range in YouTube and anywhere in social media.
Yeah. Well, firstly, mind movies, by the way, they came out of Australia as well. Mind movies are very different in the sense that they are a vision board, a digital vision board, okay, like a dream board. So you have, as you said, images with affirmations and music attached. And even though my SEC films use the mind movie modality, it is not a vision board, okay? The comment you made about watching mind movies, for instance, to attract wealth and money, you are very right. When the focus is on money anyhow, Isolde, this is the wrong motivator. It really is, we need to build up a relationship towards money, or have a relationship with money is more like it. And that has to do with our self-worth, okay? And also it has to do with what do we do to get money as a fair exchange. So if we, for instance, set a goal to do something that will be a major service to the universe, and I watch my SEC film, I then can believe that I am worthy. I can overcome my limitations, such as my blockages, my fears, my lack of confidence, my self-limiting beliefs that are holding me back. And then I can attract the kind of activity where I have to take action, because once we desensitize the amygdala, which is the fear center of the brain, we actually enable all the action centers of the brain, okay? So now I'm taking massive action. So I'm not just focusing on my goal and visualizing myself already having done it, but I'm also overcoming everything that's holding me back, and I'm activating my action centers. That means I'm actually proactively doing something about getting money coming in. And then we're talking, that you will be manifesting money. Just focusing on money itself, that's why The Secret has left so many people disappointed.
We left out important parts about it, because it's one thing to think about certain things, but in human experience, it's not just about feeling and thinking, but action. And when you touched on a great point about money. Money is really creating value. And when you understand that when you create value, the universe will repay you in many ways. And the same thing like about your videos, you creating a value that's going to be useful for a lot of people who are seeking help, and it helps in so many areas in life. And what is our biggest issues most of the time? It's our health and our feeling successful regarding our finances and relationships. So you targeted, I think, the majority, in a bundle. You bundle them up, because those are the two issues, or the three issues that we really suffer from. Anyone you ask, how about your love life, and what do you do, and how much money you make? That's those are the issues that we have hang-ups on, and that's what we talk about more than anything else. I would love to talk about in the future, like, what did you manifest today? What was your biggest inspiration today? And what is your SEC movie brought into your life? I mean, those are the things that I would love to talk about with people, instead of like, well, how is your health? because you overcome, because you understand that when you are in a state of abundance, and always in a state of abundance, that's another factor that people don't understand. Is just the abundance of lack, or abundance of wealth or health. That's another thing, that we never lack of abundance. We never
lack abundance. I think, though, we need to help people to overcome those things that are holding them back, because right now, as you said early on, also you mentioned education. At the moment, I'm teaching people to firstly learn absolutely everything that they think is true and what they've been taught, and I'm saying, no, it doesn't have to be this way. We can, however, now with this tool assist you, even though ideally I would like to see a generation where I would not have to rewrite people's belief systems that no longer serve them well. Okay, so we really need to make a change to the education system, and that's certainly something that I'd like to do as well. But right now, as coming back to the moment where we have now a generation that sort of struggles, as you said, and we are addicted to talk about our problems and our limitations, and we're blaming the governments, we're blaming the schools, we're blaming, our parents, we're blaming just about everything, we look upon ourselves as being a victim and saying, well, I can't do any better, I'm working so hard, I don't know what more I can do, you know, I'm highly qualified, but I can't get money coming in, I don't know what's wrong with me, where am I going wrong? And then you're hard on yourself, you beat yourself up. And I'm saying, there's nothing wrong with you. You have absolutely everything that you need, okay? All it is, your own subconscious programming, and most of that you got in the first 6 years while you were a child, and not necessarily because your parents were dysfunctional. It's just as a child, you're observing stuff and you're interpreting it in a way that maybe didn't make any sense, but you didn't know any better because you're only 6 years old. And so let's say if you saw mum and dad fight over money because money was scarce, and here we're coming back to the relationship to money, and so every time the child observes under the age of 6 while the subconscious mind is wide open, okay, and everything the child observes, now I'm having problems speaking, observes goes straight into the subconscious mind. It sees, he or she sees its parents fight over money because obviously they can't pay bills, etc., etc. And eventually forms a belief around money that says money must be bad. Money must be bad because every time mum and dad fight, it's over money. So 30 years later, fast forward 30 years, you're working hard, you know, you're highly qualified, you've, I don't know, gotten yourself all sorts of certifications, etc., etc., but you're still not attracting any money, and you have no idea why. And consciously you may say, I like money, I like spending money, but you don't realize that your relationship to money is negative. So this is where rewriting modalities come in. We need to eliminate those beliefs that no longer serve you and substitute them with new beliefs that serve you well. And the moment that rewriting has taken place, just with that first client that I've mentioned, you know, who definitely was giving up and said, look, you know, I have brilliant ideas, but I can't get any business off the ground. Everybody else beats me to it, he used to say. You know, it doesn't matter, I'm either too soon or I'm too late, and I'm going, no, it's to do with your mindset. It's what's going on in there right now. And the moment we rewrote some of those beliefs, he's taking off. And so, yes, you know, I'm excited that we finally have a possibility that is really pain-free, and I think for a lot of people this is really important, because you talked about change before, we talked about pain and how we need to go, you know, often through that pain body or that dark side of tragedy before we actually grow, and certainly spiritual growth is part and parcel of that. And I think prior to my major crumbling, I was quite a lazy spirit disorder, so it served me well. But also, just in general, for people who are struggling and finally saying, I'm fed up, you know, I want to do well at exams or in my business. What is it that I have this glass ceiling and I can't break through? I'm saying, don't worry about learning all about neuroscience. You don't have to become a scientist. Just grab yourself an easy to use tool that is very gentle, and this is gentle as meditation, and meditation is certainly something I also recommend to everybody. That's one way of getting in touch with our soul or our heart or our subconscious mind, our higher self, etc., etc. So many benefits. But having a tool that helps us rewrite parts of our programming in such a gentle way, in a powerful way. I wished I would have had this years ago, Zola. I wished I would have had that years ago for myself.
Yeah, that's true. But just look at it. If we experience something, it's just like it had a space and time and a reason in our experience. That's how I look at it. That if something came in, there was there for me to experience it, and with that, it will enrich my being. You know, and that's. You know, life is like the practical part of being a human. You know, you can read about, you know, anything, but unless you experience it, you don't really own it. And
Sure.
so that's one of those things. But anyhow, so you are the developer of the self-empowering cinematography. So I am so impressed by your work. And I think it's going to help a lot of people. You are definitely a light worker and creative value that will help thousands, if not millions of people. Thank you very much for coming on the show and sharing your experience, and that will definitely enrich my life, and hope everyone who is looking at it and will look at this video. And really looking forward that your business will take off, and you can create new videos for not just healing and success, but for schools, for abuse, for a lot of things that we think that we're trapped into and we can now break out of. But the main thing is that it's awakening our self-worth. It's awakening, you know, it's a permission slip, I would say,
Yes.
to the bigger being, to our true being, and what we, you know, what we're capable of and what is our potential. Thank you very much, Regina. It was wonderful to have you. And any other last words that you would like to say to the viewers?
Well, I hope that I have been able to explain the tool and my mission in life, and hopefully people can see the compassion I have for all the suffering in this world, and how this tool is designed to not only help the shift, the awakening, for people to realize and able to tap into their infinite potential, but also to help all the souls who have gone through hardship and trauma and have health issues, and to not give up and have hope and have something that is going to set them free in a way to have a much better life, and as you said, get that self-love and self-worth back. And Isolde, I wanted to point out that if anybody wants to know a little bit more about SCC films, anything that perhaps I forgot to cover here today with you, they can visit my Facebook pages under AClass Coaching or Regina Rowlison, or they can go directly to my webpage, which is a-classcoaching.com. And SCC films can be purchased via that particular website or my Facebook page as well. So I'm very grateful, Isolde. It was lovely talking to you here today. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Be blessed, and hopefully we talk again soon.
Thank you very much, and we'll have your website under this video in the YouTube section. So, and also I will post it on the Facebook as well. Anyone who's interested to purchase your products, they can go to your website. Anyway, thank you very much, and have a wonderful day. It's evening in California, and you know, midday in Australia. And namaste.
Namaste. Thank you again. Take care. Bye for now.